Oh, I should show you these pictures. These are actually brilliant IZZ pictures. So this is a legend from Montreal in the 1930s called Pierre Beauchemin. But what he's seated on, if you look at it carefully, those are trees. Okay. And that's called the pole track. And it went from Amos, Quebec to Val d'Or. And that's how they built the mines, because Amos was bigger than Val d'Or in the 1920s and 30s. And the Quebec government, they built the cathedral in Amos. So religion, government, ministries, they were all based in Amos. And when Val d'Or started to have the discoveries, they extended a pole track to bring all these supplies and services in. And that's actually in Louvicourt Township, which is east of Val d'Or. You go through it on your way to Montreal. But you can see the vehicles that they used. Yeah. And Pierre Beauchemin himself, he was a real legend. So he was behind Sullivan Mine, East Sullivan, Louvicourt Goldfields, Aiguabelle Mines, to name just a couple. But anyway, and that's what Simcar looked like in 1946, 47, right after World War II. It's called Simcar because it was named after Charles Simard and Frank Karpus. Simard Karpus. Anyway, it was a small gold producer in the day, but most noteworthy because of the pole track, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, and what is Tomiska copper?
Nothing, that's just a kind of funny things that you find in the paper files, so.
Oh yeah, and those, all the paper files that you collect.
Yeah, I love the paper files. Just there's stuff you find in there that, I mean, the problem with digital and internet in general is people have very short attention spans. They flip from page to page. And I mean, they actually measure that, right? They talk about eyeballs, but they talk about the number of pages and retention, how long you look at a page, which is not long. No. Whereas when you're reading paper files, you tend to get, stuck on something, something factual or something interesting or something that, can't possibly be true that you have to investigate. And you tend to keep things open for a long period of time and go back again and again. None of which is generally true for internet or digital formats. So I prefer the paper files, but we use the digital for everything like everyone. But we like to have the paper files. And sometimes the discoveries happen in the files.
You
just happen to come across something and you go, oh my gosh, I bet they didn't think about platinum palladium in the 1950s. Nickel copper, they were looking at nickel copper, but did they check for platinum palladium? Because it's generally well known that platinum palladium occur together with nickel copper, but in the 1950s there was no market because palladium is used for catalytic converters, which didn't exist in the 1950s. So there's lots of things like that you look at and you go, oh my gosh, I wonder if they did this, or I wonder if they did that. But again, it comes from paper files. Oh, they come from everywhere that we've been. So I mean, what kind of a geologist goes somewhere and doesn't take home a rock, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, we kind of collect them just from everywhere. So Baden is a township in Ontario, not too far from here, about 2.5 hours, near Matachewan, Ontario, and that's one of our gold projects. So those are quartz veins and some sulfides that are within the quartz that carries gold, of course, and always, you hope. There's lots of rock samples, so some of them are more significant than others. Some of them are of geological interest. Some of them are of economic interest. There's a cool one right over here. This is from Canton de Courville in north of Val d'Or, and it's an area that we're working on again right now. And our partner is Eldorado Gold. And so this is one of our focus projects for 2022. And that greenish color is called fouchite and or mariposite. Generally, it's a favorable alteration, a good indicator for gold mineralization. Where you find fouchite, you often find gold, not always, but it's a very good indicator, and it's easier to find the fouchite than gold. So you look for alteration like that. And then you can see the quartz veins all through here. And we know from our assays of this particular sample and other ones nearby that it's very high grade. So that's one of the areas that Eldorado are interested in exploring right now. So, I mean, those are map readers. So you throw things on, especially if they're at the same scale. You can overlay geophysics on top of geology. The general idea being you're always trying to take different data and look at things and see something that nobody else has seen before, or maybe see it in a different way. So, I mean, that's pretty much what we do all day. It's just a printer. Yeah. Yeah, well, most of it is digital now, so we don't store every single map anymore. Most of them are, you know, in computer archives. But definitely, we've been here more than 25 years, so a lot of that stuff goes back to the origin, the beginning.
So you've been in Val-d'Or for 35 years, and then you've been in this office for
36 years in Val-d'Or, I think. Time goes fast, like yesterday. The Canadians were playing the Flyers in the playoffs. There was a violent fight before the game where the players were not a lot of the players were not wearing their skates because it was the pregame warm-up that had just finished. And as they were leaving the ice, the fight started, and then both teams started to send their players back out, and a lot of them didn't have skates. And so the NHL changed rules after that game to govern the way that the pregame warm-up happens so that they can't have any conflict.
So that's how you
That was the day that I moved to Val-d'Or. Yeah.
Oh,
and there was a huge rainstorm in Montreal on the Décarie Expressway where it filled up with water and several people passed away on that day. Because I remember hearing about that when I got to Val-d'Or that night, because I had driven up to Carrie, you know, in the morning to come to Val-d'Or. And when I got here, I watched the storm and I thought, oh my gosh, like, you know, circumstances, right?
And when you showed up to Val-d'Or, like, did you have a job? Did you have a...
No.
Yeah, you just packed your bags and
moved
your
here
mom and your dad and said, that's it,
I moved on graduation day. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the Canadians were in the playoffs and I watched the game from here.
And what is this?
This was given to us by the widow of an engineer, a mining engineer in Val-d'Or, who had designed the plant at the Lamaque mine. And so as he was building the original plant for the gold processing, he built a pilot plant, a miniaturized version, a test to work on his own from home. So, after he moved on, his wife was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do with this thing?
It's beautiful.
I know,
the craftsmanship is...
It blows my mind that somebody could be so detailed and so methodical and to have gone to that trouble. And so I think we built the case around it. I think it actually just came like wide open. And so then we added that Yvon Bourassa.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of hard to see because the light's not so great, but these geological maps are actually of that mine I mentioned, Simcar in Louvicourt. And there was a geologist named Jean Lavallée who did most of the underground mapping. You can see his signature somewhere in here. But when you look at the detail, it's all done by hand. You know, today that's all done by digital images, and there's all kinds of digital surveying and so on and so forth. But in the 1940s, none of that existed. And if you look at how precise and methodical their work was, and that was the first job that I had when I came to Val-d'Or. I was a mine geologist at Louvicourt Gold Mine, Simcar.
Okay.
And so, you know, it just blew my mind when I started looking at those maps and then going underground to look at, you know, 50 years later, they dewatered it and went back to explore and develop it. And I mean, you couldn't improve on that. It's just amazing how good quality the work was.
And that I guess that's a reading table for...
Just for laying out maps, and we stick out different things sometimes to kind of inspire you as you keep walking by, you keep thinking about different things, and we change the images every couple of days. And this is our conference room in Val-d'Or, but it's, you know, usually where I spend most of my days because there's no windows and no distractions.
ADHD?
Yeah, but it's just, if you sit downstairs, all you do is email. And, you know, email is important to do, but you can spend your whole day doing email and not accomplish anything.
Yes.
So I try to actually escape from my own office and just read. And this is, you know, a better place to do that by and large.